Let me just start off by saying that the original 1992 animated Aladdin film is one of my favorite Disney films. It has some excellent humor as well as amazing characters and amazing songs. Robin Williams as the genie is definitely a highlight. Every scene he's in is just so fun to watch. It's the best film that Ron Clements and John Musker have worked on. Too bad their film after that ended up being their worst one. Still, Aladdin is a great movie and easily one of my top 10 favorite Disney films. This is the kind of film that just can't be turned into live action. Not even Disney would do something like Why? It's pretty clear that I'm not a fan of the Disney remakes. The only one I thought was great was The Jungle Book. All the other ones ranged from mediocre to just straight up terrible. There are even more on the way. Lion King comes out in a couple of months, a Little Mermaid remake was announced, a Lilo and Stitch remake was announced, even a Mulan remake is coming out next year. Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to that one just because the main actress is kind of hot. Anyway, with Aladdin, I wasn't expecting much from it, but now that I've seen it, I shall give my thoughts. First off, Will Smith was phenomenal as the genie, which is funny because he was the thing I was the most worried about. I mean, Robin Williams set the bar so high with his performance. It would be hard to live up to that. It's just something that can't be replicated. The great thing is, Will didn't try to replicate Robin's performance. He pretty much did his own thing and it worked very well. He brought in some much needed energy. He even had some pretty funny moments. Even Naomi Scott as Jasmine I felt did a pretty great job. She had a great way of showing strength and determination. Even though there are moments where she seemed kinda wooden, she still does her best. But now I'll get to what I didn't like because I thought this movie was pretty bad. I wasn't a fan of Mina Masood as Aladdin. He was just so bland. He also has an awkward expression on him multiple times and it was just not a good performance. As for Jafar, they completely ruined him. He's practically expressionless throughout most of the film, making him feel very generic and not stand out as an excellent villain. It was hard to take anything he said seriously. He always talks like this. Bring me the lamp. I want to rule all of Agrabah. He's so emotionless to the point where when he actually starts to become more menacing, it feels very forced. Iago is in the movie, but he's more of a regular parrot in this, which I actually thought was fine, but he was so annoying. Why did they need to make him talk? His words don't even have any purpose. It's easy to tell that making him talk was a last-minute decision. While the movie does try to be its own thing at times, it also tries to capture the same magic as the original, which in this case didn't always work for me. Like at the beginning, they have Will Smith singing Arabian Nights, and during it, they show Jafar making a peasant go into the Cave of Wonders. That scene was a very intense moment in the original, but it loses all intensity here because the scene is only less than a minute and it's ruined by having a song play over it. Just like the other remakes, the scenery doesn't feel very magical. The scenery is just so drab. I don't get the idea of making these live action films feel dark and dull. The songs from the original are in this movie. If I had to choose a favorite, it would be Friend Like Me. I just think Will Smith performs it very well. The way they rearranged it really fits with his style. Unfortunately, even that got ruined by having them play a horrible version of it in the credits, which featured DJ Khaled of all people. While the hip-hop style really fits with Friend Like Me, they tried to add a hip-hop beat to some of the other songs in the movie too, and it doesn't work. There was also some obvious autotune involved, though it wasn't nearly as bad as Emma Watson's robotic voice. Wow. Plus, the musical numbers lack energy. I mean, yeah, it's a live-action film. You can't recreate the cartoonish nature of the original, but it also really looks like they tried to with some really bad editing choices, especially in the one jump scene. For some reason, they felt the need to cut to different shots every few seconds. Aladdin bounces off an awning and is clearly about to hit a wall, but then it cuts to a different angle that shows him bouncing off the other awning that was on the wall he was about to hit. This is also a problem in the climax when there's so many cuts and so much shakiness to the point where it was hard to tell what was even happening. Even when the carpet saves Aladdin from that icy place, we see it arrive, then it just cuts to the next scene. Couldn't we have at least seen Aladdin taken off with the carpet? There's also these random slow motion shots in multiple scenes. I don't know what they were thinking with those, because they actually made me laugh by how awful they looked. Prince Ali wasn't as grand as it should have been. Not to mention, Will Smith is clearly struggling to hit those high notes. To his credit, it's better than the Broadway show's version of this number. At least they actually show Prince Ali himself during the song. Then there was A Whole New World. This was the most disappointing aspect of the movie for me. Not the actual performance from the two actors though, although Naomi's voice was a lot more powerful than Mina's voice, but the scene itself felt very half-assed. The carpet doesn't really travel too far, it mainly stays in Agrabah, which doesn't make it seem like a whole new world, if you know what I mean. Also, the green screen and CGI during the scene just made it really hard to watch. The green screen would have to be pretty bad for me to bring it up, and wow was it atrocious here. But it's still better than just flying in front of a black background the entire time. There's one new song in the film that Jasmine sings. Unfortunately, it's not To Be Free. Honestly, that would have made this film an automatic 10 out of 10. Instead, she gets a strong female power ballad that she sings in 2 different scenes. This song only exists to fill up time and nothing else! When she sings it the first time, I thought it was nice. But then she sings the second part of it later on, and it completely puts a film to a halt. Naomi Scott is doing everything she can to make the song as powerful as possible, but it's just a generic I Want song that just felt like it was shoved in there and felt very out of place. There were actually quite a lot of moments that just dragged on. The movie is 2 hours and 8 minutes, and there's a lot of filler included. Like, there's a scene where Aladdin and Jasmine are having a dance-off, and that doesn't move the plot forward in any way. Plus, Aladdin is being helped by the genie during the dance battle. So you're meaning to tell me that Aladdin can do impressive parkour stunts, but he can't dance? Come on! Speaking of Genie helping out Aladdin, the way this works is inconsistent. Of course, there's the part where Aladdin is drowning and Genie says he can't help him unless he makes a wish. Yet that didn't stop him from the whole dance thing and making a bauble appear on the map to show Jasmine that it's a real place. Maybe I'm just not understanding something, but I was really bothered by this. But the thing that bothered me the most was that they introduced a new character named Dahlia, who is the handmaid for Princess Jasmine. She has no reason to be in the movie, except for the fact that they decided to make her the love interest for the genie. So these two characters have an unnecessary relationship because, of course. The relationship isn't even developed enough for us to even care. We only see them together for about a couple of minutes, and during this time, the scene is mostly focused on Aladdin and Jasmine. Then they all of a sudden become romantic partners at the end and already talk about having 2 kids who we see at the beginning where Genie starts telling them this whole story. There was absolutely no point. The movie is bad, but that's not very surprising. It gave me just about what I expected. Except that Will Smith was nowhere near as bad as I thought he would be. There are some pretty good moments, but they're not enough for me to say that it's a good movie. I still think it's better than Dumbo and Beauty and the Beast. Unlike those 2 movies, it actually has a balance between being a different movie and staying true to the original, even though it wasn't very well executed. If you like the live-action remakes, then you might like this one, but for me, this is a movie I wish hadn't happened.